You are now listening to Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, the voice for the people. Join Richie alongside co-host property damage attorney Hans Kennon as they bring light to the taboo world of big insurance companies, exposing their tactics and fighting for justice. Hear stories from contractors across the state. Contractor Talk, here to protect homeowners and uncover the truth.
All right, welcome to the show. There, let me turn this volume over. There we go. Welcome to the show, Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, every Monday night right here on this fine establishment, 94.9 FM, 950 on the AM dial, The Answer. And over to you on Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you like to stream. In a few days from today, you'll have it on every platform that you like to consume our advocacy station here, however we want to say it, or our show here. And then we're also on YouTube. So check us out there, Contractor Talk podcast is where you'll find us on not only on our online site, contractorpodcast.com is where you get it. We are sponsored by the Restoration Association of Florida. So check us out online at raflorida.org. If you have a question, comment, and you want to bring it on the show, instead of calling in, not many people call in, and they'll call me afterwards and ask me questions or whichever. But send us an email if that's just as easy. info at raflorida.org. We'd love to see what you have to talk about or topic question that you have for the show. We always have great guests for you. Again, that's info at raflorida.org. And what a great show for you guys today.
Yeah.
And perfect place for it. The background here is, if you're checking us out on YouTube, you'll see the American flags in the background. We use this studio for the 1 hour, and already I feel America. I don't know how else to say it.
America.
Especially sitting right across from Frank Collige for CFO. What's going on, Frank?
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. I was keeping the energy up alive, but but yeah, man. I mean, serious guy, some serious matters going on right now. And Hans, what's going on, man? With you?
Well, we're discussing. We had some guys that we were talking to on the way up, talking about Frank and talking about him running for CFO, and we were told to make our case during the hour because they always listen to the show and see what we have to talk about, what we bring to the public. And Frank is who we're going to bring to the public because the public may not know him. And many of these votes, Frank's going to be in an election August 18th, which is a primary, but there's no one running on the Democratic ticket. Frank's a Republican running against another Republican. So whoever wins that primary on August 18th essentially will win that race. So don't wait till November and go, hey, Hans, hey, Richie, who's that guy you want me to vote for?
That I'm going to vote for? I'm ready to vote today because today's the big election day.
Yes.
My goodness. And we come right out the gate swinging tonight, man. So I love it. A lot of energy going on today because it's so important. Hans and I were trying to think of a tagline through here, when a call to action, right? When you need people to get behind is put your money where your mouth is, right? In this case, is put your vote where your vote is. I'm not even sure, but show up in August for the primary is the message here. We talk, most of our show that we talk about is the inefficiencies that these insurance companies have when they're treating insureds, contractors, public adjusters, folks that are helping the insured be get to the time in which they can be put back to a pre-loss condition. What is it, a Serpro that says like it never happened?
Like it never happened.
Yeah, just like that. And one of our guests was a Serpro guy, and I love that saying. But it's super important that we have a voice in Tallahassee. And what we've seen is the voice of dictatorship via bought out from the insurance lobby. And I didn't know. I thought the insurance lobby was pretty strong here in Florida. I thought they were definitely numero uno. But apparently the banks have the number one lobbying type of efforts, which I thought they would be more behind the consumer and keeping the laws more pro-consumer than it would be pro-insurance. And that's what we've seen since 2022 when our dictator DeSantis decided to run for president. He was cool up until that point, and then he got owned. He got purchased, he got bought out, and he did this by running for president. Of course, he changed the law a day before he was running for president that says that if you're a governor and you run and you announce your candidacy for president, you have to step down as governor. Well, he changed that law a day before that he did that. And again, he can't change laws, but he did have his cronies go through and push it all the way through to his desk. He silently stamps it, and the next day he's like, "Oh, I'm running for president," with $100 million from his from the insurance PAC funds, all during the midst of this quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, fake crisis that these insurance companies put on, while they were then given instructions by the to the Office of Insurance Director to just give out all of these blind increases to create this narrative. Right?
And the guy who did that, Paul Renner, is it Renner?
Well, he was the previous Speaker of the House.
Correct. He's put his hat in to run for governor.
I saw that.
So just keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the guy who said DeSantis didn't have to, basically they changed the law because it was such an honor. He said it was an honor to have a guy from Florida run for president, so they changed the law to suit him. Imagine what he'll do to you as the citizens of Florida if he ever becomes governor. So just keep that in mind. He's the guy who said we should change the laws just for Ron DeSantis. You can imagine what he'd do for insurance companies.
Right. And now we know this, and we also know that, and also silently before he announced his run for candidacy, part of a law change that nobody really knows about is that he gets to hide his expenses as well as his cabinet from the general public. And that was, again, a law that was silently passed before he ran for a president. He took on the $100 million. He became owned. And that's just a sad day. When you thought you had a governor that stood behind you as the people, as somebody that we voted for, and then we did the second time in Groves. He barely won the first time, and that's why he was so mad at the trial bar. Many people don't know this, but he barely won the race in 2018.
Like 3,000, 2,000?
I thought it was closer than that by hundreds is what I heard. Yeah. And there was a recount because it was so close.
Right.
Not the hanging Chad type of recount, but the you're super close, so let's count it down to the exact, and it was only hundreds apart. Yeah. And he was against the mayor of Tallahassee, Mayor Gillum at the time. The Florida Justice Association, or the trial bar is what governor calls them, raised $3.5 million against his opponent, and that's what almost brought it over that ledge. And he was holding on to that, ready for that right opportunity. And he said that, and he was actually public about it, saying that that it was time to reverse these things that the trial bar was doing, and that the billboards attorneys were doing, and kind of saying all this stuff. And then there was all these fake facts going around when it was finally your turn, Hans, to be the boogeyman. The reason why premiums are going up every year when it was finally your turn, right? I mean, then they were bringing all these fake facts going up. They say on average you get 70 or 80% of people's money, and it's just not true. And so creating all these falsehoods that then put him in a position to say, well, they got what they had coming, right? And
what's amazing, though, all the laws, I mean, if you want to go after me as a lawyer, which I think, for me, there's nothing more American than being a lawyer, for me personally. I mean, what do? You stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. But everything that the governor did to take away, essentially impede lawyers' ability to help clients, public adjusters, contractors, all he does with all those things that misguided vengeance is hurt the consumer to the benefit of the insurers. There's nothing the insurance company wants more than an unsophisticated claimant. Right. They don't want
unrepresented.
Me, they don't want you. They don't want a public adjuster. They want anyone who can help the poor consumer. But instead, he goes after us who help the consumer under the idea that he's somehow helping the consumer. And all he did was, again, take the money and then allow these blanket premium increases.
That's right. And they're still not going down. We heard another report saying that we think we're stabilizing, although we still can't find affordable or even a good policy. Well, let's say we can find an affordable policy. It doesn't cover anything, though. You have a $5,000 water suck pump backup, $10,000 water limit, $10,000 mold limit, and then these policies come out and say, oh, yeah, by the way, anti-PA, right? So you can't have a public adjuster come in and help you either. And then the other policies saying, well, you have to use your own our contractor network, or you're going to get $10,000 and that's it. And then other policies are just saying, basically, you don't have any coverage at all, or excuse me, if you are in a dispute, you can't even have your day in court. Not only do we have DOA through Citizens, but then we also have these arbitration policies, and it's maddening what they're doing to consumers, which is minimizing their access to the court systems or access to be able to get made whole again.
And what we talk about with all that, it's as if they just do this on their own. when in fact all these things go through the Office of Insurance Regulation.
It does.
So
the policies that get approved
Right.
that are against the statute, which I'm scratching my head going, how did that get through? Goes to the Office of Insurance Regulation, which is overseen by the CFO in the state of Florida. Many people don't know that, how important the CFO's role is here. It's a voted role, whereas the Office of Insurance Regulation is appointed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Again, the point I was to make with all that is that the Office of Insurance Regulation, we talk about insurance companies and the policies that don't cover anything, and the consumer goes, well, I guess that's just what the insurance company does. No. There's offices, there's administrations, there's all these things, including Department of Financial Services, the CFO, OIR, which are there to protect the consumer. It's not like the insurance company's going, hey, we're going to change this policy and we're not going to ask anybody. We're just going to do, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to raise rates too. You know what? How about that?
Yeah, why not?
They're not allowed to do any of those things without the approval of the state.
Yeah, and they're running in the same. I mean, Citizens Office is right in the same end of the hallway as most of the I was going to say not the governor's office, but the CFO's office, as well as many of the lobbying firms, kind of all around there, all making these decisions, not on behalf of the consumer, but on behalf of their pockets. And the Office of Insurance Regulation is in sync with what, and we saw this. We saw first the legislature saying we need to make these changes. This is all backed by the insurance companies. Here we go. We have a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. They wanted to make these law changes. It wasn't happening. You know, we saw the Chris Bras, which was Speaker of the House in 2020 and 2021. He wasn't having it. As soon as he switched out of his seat, and they had a
Banter.
Right, in support and in the Pasadomo in the Senate that were doing his bidding, and that's when he became super powerful, and that's when it just really the wheels went off the rocker.
And before you think that's just us saying that, there's quotes in the Orlando Sentinel of Pasadomo saying we're going to do what the governor asked us to do.
Right,
we're going to pass his agenda. I mean, not like as I forget who said it, but they didn't actually even go legislate. They just said, Governor, what do you need? What do you want?
Right,
and he gave it to him and said, okay. I mean, so there was no legislative process. There was no typical banter, we'll call it, between the parties, between different senators or House representatives. Right. They were just like, whatever you think.
Yeah, and because they had to run in sync, that's where I was going to that. My point is that the government office run by the coming down from the governor saying this is how we're going to make it happen. You OIR start to raise rates. We're going to create this fake crisis because in 2020, 2021, insurance companies were trying hard until he had to run for president, and that's when a lot of things changed. He pushed that through. Then we had a switch in the guard, right? Who was guarding the Senate? Who was guarding the House? All of that just happened to line up perfectly for the insurance companies, for their fake story that they're pushing out, that all of these things were all brought by litigation, which was all run by these crazy facts, something about like 70-something% of all of the litigation happens in Florida, but only a certain percentage of the policies exist, like 8% or something. So they're trying to make this astronomical number. And I remember FJA and others calling them out in the committee saying, "Oh no, you guys didn't include the non-wind claims, like all of the claims in Texas from the pipe freezes. You didn't include that. You didn't include all that stuff that happened in New York. You didn't include, Then there was a state, and one of the senators was like, it was like a Montana or something like that. It was like, yeah, so you didn't count the 10 people there, and didn't even talk about Texas or the other claims, and just kind of no, the facts is close enough." So they're running it with just non-factual information to fit their narrative. And it's just unfortunate, and there really needs to be a voice in Tallahassee. And I think it's important that everybody shows up this August and votes in the primaries. And that's what's really important, especially, with what we're trying to deal with now, which is having policies that protect homeowners and that are affordable. Right. I mean, those are the biggest things that people really need to show up for and vote for your right to have insurance and have it at an affordable rate.
I mean, we're trying to have at least one guy, right? I'm not asking for a lot anymore. I've learned not to do that here. But I want one guy to tell me what the truth is and what's going on. Because when you have a Republican governor, you have a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and appointees all by the governor, you know what happens? all sorts of stuff happens you never hear about, you never know about, because nobody's blowing the whistle. No one's going, whoa, 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 whoa. You should hear about this. You should find out about this. It's not happening. We need at least one guy in a role that's pivotal to help the consumers of Florida.
That's right. That's right.
And who would that be?
Who could fill that seat?
Oh, if only we had somebody here in our studios today.
And Frank, I'd love to hear about yourself, your background, how you got to this point today, and let's really get into some of the things that we can do together as homeowners, giving them information and just the right path. And I believe that is through education, through communication, and you're the guy to do it. What's going on, Frank?
Well, appreciate you having me. A little bit about myself is I grew up in Zephyr Hills, Florida. After I graduated high school, I joined the military. I served in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you for your
it.
service.
While I was in the military, I met my wife. July will be 20 years. I got 2 teenage daughters, which is the reason I got gray in my beard. And then after I got hurt and I had to separate from the military, and I went back overseas. I flew aerostats, which are big blimps. I flew those to collect intel for the troops on the ground. And then I came back to the States. I ended up being an investigator for the Department of Business Professional Regulation. My job was to go after unlicensed contractors. And then I found my way into roofing and became a public adjuster. And I've been a public adjuster for about 5 years now. And in that 5 years, I've expanded my company into 8 states. I have about 13 public adjusters that work for me, and we handle over 1,000 claims a year.
Love it.
Pretty successful company I got, and it's all based off of ethics. We actually will adjust our fee accordingly, because at the end of the day, I only work for the insured, and I need them taken care of.
That's right.
And so I think ethically, that's how everything should be done. The government has been doing everything they can, and we all know that the government does not have ethics.
We know this. We preach this.
And so far, everything we've said has actually, honest to God, turned out to be completely correct. Even when before we knew we were like, something's up.
All right.
And then we found out 2 years later,
It's gonna
hey,
come
something
out.
was up.
That's right.
Well, see, you guys mentioned about Republicans aren't shining a light on other Republicans. I don't understand why, because it's, a lot of people don't realize, but the CFO is equal to the governor, and the CFO's job is not beholden to the governor. The governor cannot fire the CFO, and the CFO's job is to audit the state. Mm-hmm. They're supposed to be the whistleblower. They're supposed to be the ones that prevent things from happening when things start going awry. And unfortunately, we have CFOs that get in there and they're just yes them. Mm-hmm. And they're part of the establishment and they are bought and paid for. Just look at their donations. I mean, our current CFO, hundreds of thousands of dollars donated to him for the CFO position, when majority of the population has never even heard of the CFO, and they don't even know how important that CFO position really is. And yet you got insurance companies behind the scenes funneling money to them in forms of donations. There's only one reason an insurance company would donate that kind of money to the person who's supposed to regulate them, is because they want to control them.
Control. That's it. Mm-hmm. Follow the money, man.
Oh yeah.
Buying influence.
And we saw that happen with Jimmy Petronas, the outgoing CFO. The only reason why Blaze is in there is because somehow, some way, and probably through the donations of the insurance company for all the doing that they did for them, that Jimmy did for them over the years, got him into Congress. So he left his seat, which I'm still shaking my head. I don't know how that guy did that, but did nothing good for the citizens here in the state of Florida. And, it's like biting the hand that feeds you, right? I mean, it's like the guys, the people that went out to vote for you, put you in that place, and then you sold them. You sold them out for your right to try to move up, and it just stinks to be able to see it and to see the donations. He raised several million of dollars to become CFO by the insurance companies, and you saw what happened. You saw that all these policies started getting rubber stamped, right? I mean, some of them are the Restoration Association of Florida filed suit on, like one of them was American Disintegrity, because having that policy, binding arbitration, they were just automatically renewing people in April of 2022. Whether you knew it or not, you would just get an automatic renewal, and all of a sudden renew with that in the policy. That you could not access the court system. You have a dispute, you go to binding arbitration, each party must bear their own fees and costs.
You know who voted for that? Blaise Ngoli, our current CFO, when he was state senator, voted yes for that. So he voted to strip Floridians of their constitutional right to court because the federal government, the federal constitution and the state constitution both enshrine our capability of going to court. But yet somehow we can pass a law to prevent, to strip that constitutional right from you. And that's exactly what they did with insurance, which is funny because insurance is a private entity. It's the only private entity that we are mandated by law to purchase, and yet they're doing everything they can to screw Floridians. Period.
Right. And where are their books and records? I mean, there was a law in 2022 via Senate Bill 76 that says you insurance company have to produce all of your expenditures, showing us how much you pay in defense fees per claim, how much in plaintiff fees, how much in representative to PA, how much on the, everything's broken down so we can see what this quote unquote fraud's about. But the Office of Insurance Deregulation, they just allowed them to delay not turning it in, and then they say, oh no, it's protected. It's like, this is not the Pepsi Cola formula, for crying out loud. It's like they are just protecting it like madhouse.
Well, the law says that the CFO's office allowed access. If you're licensed by the CFO's office, which every insurance company is, and so is every adjuster, then they have unfettered access at any time. That's the reason we have to hold the records for 5 years to go through your records. And so the only reason it's not being done is because they don't want to, and that's not the carrier. That's the government. The government doesn't want to, and I don't know about you, but I'm all for transparency and accountability and integrity. Matter of fact, if insurance companies had integrity, accountability, and transparency, my profession as a public adjuster wouldn't even exist.
Nor mine as a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. And they fed everyone a line of BS. When they kept saying, oh, the fraud, which is the reason why the rates keep going up. Well, I got a couple things about that. First of all, if it was truly fraud, where's all the handcuffs?
Right.
Where's all the perp walks? Where are the prosecutions? There isn't any. Why? Because it wasn't fraud. It's corporate greed, plain and simple. Secondly, if it was truly about litigation, then why is it the same time they got rid of one-way attorney fees, did they also get rid of alternative dispute resolutions? It wasn't about that. Now they're actually forcing people to file a lawsuit. Why? It's because they know once homeowners know that they're going to lose more money out of the settlement, they're less likely to take it all the way. Again, it's corporate greed. Nothing about fraud, none of that. Because if that was truly the case, that would have been the justification when they sent it to Tallahassee, but it wasn't. If you look at the document that DFS held from everyone, does not lay out anything along those lines. It was all about how much everything is costing them, nothing about litigation.
Right. Now, if you, being the CFO, were to see Miami Herald come out with these crazy numbers after Hurricane Milton passed through, showing the staggering numbers of denials from these insurance companies. 15 insurance companies denied more than 50% of all the claims that were filed based off of those two storms, talking about both Helene and for Milton together. And what do you do if you're the CFO in that seat? What do you tell the homeowners, and what do you do with the Office of Insurance Regulation that is the overseer of these insurance companies? I mean, there has to be a great reason why of these staggering high denials.
Well, the OIR only approves rate increases and endorsements to the policies. The CFO regulates licenses and punishments.
All right, that's the 45-second timer before we go on a commercial break. Now, how do we get a hold of you? And this is not the main election day that's really important. When you're running Republican versus Republican, the day is actually in August.
August 18th, yes.
August 18th is the day you need to show up and vote. What's your website?
frankforchange.com.
frankforchange.com is where you need to go. Check him out. Do some background on him. Make your best decision, but show up to the voting polls. Is so important for you to do that. Is there early, I think everything has like this early voter registration. Do they have that for the primaries as well?
Yes, it starts, I believe, like August 3rd is early voting.
All right, Frank for Change. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after we give some thanks to our sponsors. All right, we're back live on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, 94.9 FM, 950 on the AM dial. If you're listening to us locally here in Central Florida, every Monday night, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then over to Spotify, iTunes, and of course on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe us there. Don't miss a show. I wasn't going to bring up Hans Dapper attire of the day, but I have to just because it is different, and it is. I'm feeling the purple, man. I like it. Man. You know, it's a good contrast off the American flag.
It's a different look. It's a different look than usual. We try to wear the jacket and tie, and a shirt and tie, and shirt and jacket. And today we had some early morning issues arise, so I'm glad to be here, albeit in a somewhat more casual attire.
Well, we are happy you were here as well too, because change needs to be made, and frankforchange.com is how you make that change. So, anyways, there's a Michael Jackson song in there somewhere, but that's really it. I mean, and how we were trying to say something like, put your money where your mouth is. Well, it's really to make that change, and Frank is the way of that change. Have a voice in Tallahassee. And Frank, I love how you said that. It's like what we've seen in the last several regimes is the people that are in that CFO position is a do-boy to the governor. Yes. And I love the point that you made and says that, the governor can't fire you, right? I mean, you're both in equal almost as this in a way to where they think, okay, you're just a financial officer. I don't even know what that means, but you're going to throw a pen at him or something like that if if his I's aren't dotted or T's aren't crossed. But no, I mean there's a lot more to that in that oversight, in that voice that what they call the constituents have or the voters have. And I think it's important. I think was it Representative Geller last year said what everybody was thinking and saying and being frustrated about, which is, when are we going to go back to legislate? He stood up.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not legislating, and he's a Democrat guy, and poor guy. He's just outvoted by the Senate or by the Republicans by a steep number. Every committee, you're supposed to have an even and out or as much as you can of Republicans and Democrats, but it's like you'll see a committee of 12 and it's like 8 of them Republican and only 4 there. So to your point, Frank, about Republicans sticking together, it's like they are individuals, but if the party don't have the numbers, they stick with their party, right? Because they'll tell them to screw off if they have the numbers, and if they don't stand behind it, they'll tell the governor, they'll tell whatever, you don't have the numbers, we have the numbers, and they'll hold their line. But, I was so mad during that 2021, 2022 up in Tallahassee. I was sitting in my lobbyist office with 14 Republicans. I mean, a very powerful House of Representative folks there. And literally everybody's on their phone and they're like, oh, no, so-and-so's, out or so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And they're texting all the Democrats, and they're like, well, usually the Democrats stick together, and then we have to find enough Republicans to get the numbers to overstep it. But there's like, nobody's sticking together. Everybody's just fearful of the governor, and they're just kind of doing his bidding. Meanwhile, you got the governor between 21 and 22 telling all those other Republicans that didn't want to do his bidding to say, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to run somebody against you in the primary with all of his millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in his war chest, and he would get his way. So everybody just did what he wanted to do because it was super important to him, and he was running for president. He wanted all this other stuff. But off the backs of consumers, and it's like, what did you think was going to happen? And when this story got out, right? When people see right through you, right? I mean, it's like, you got us through COVID. I love that as a business owner, that it was able to keep their business open confidently as we move forward as a business. And I was just very saddened to see what happened and how he had such a big sway on all of those things. I mean, not only just insurance, but many of those other like the appointments that he made, the fear that he put into. I don't think really Jimmy Paterno is really fearful. He was just like a goofball that just anyway. So just do whatever, right? I mean, so he's the do boy for them, and I think it's important that we have some change in Tallahassee. We have a voice. We have other folks that are representing when they go up there that really speak for their constituents. And I echo what Representative Geller was saying. I think we need to get back to that time where legislators are legislating. They are doing what the people in their district want them to be the voice for. And it's so important that people show up in August 18th?
August 18th.
That's right. That's the day I'm going to vote.
Yep.
And now, right before the break, I was asking about early voting. So is there a time that early voting starts for the primaries?
It's shortly after, I think it's like around August 3rd, August 4th, something along those lines. It's the beginning of August is when early voting starts.
Okay, and that's only if you're a Republican.
Yes.
There's no CFO running on the Democratic ticket. So if you're registered Republican, you'll have the opportunity to vote. You'll vote for Frank Collige. You'll ensure that you show up, or if you cannot show up on that date, early voting starts as early as August 3rd, you're saying.
Yeah, I believe it's August 3rd.
So they're going to mail you ballots? Is that how they do it if you're registered?
I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, normally they'll send you the sample ballot so you can study it before you go.
Yeah, and then you can request mail in.
Right, so that should happen through that process.
Now, if you are, if you don't think that you're registered Republican, or you're flipping, or you just want to check that out, is there a website for you to go to?
They can go to the Department of State website, which is Florida Department of State, and you can actually check your voting record, voter ID there. You can go to the local supervisor of elections, and they would be able to help you out as well.
That's good to know.
I'm still trying to work on a tagline. It's something to do with I went to college. Right. I went to college and learned how to. It'll be something like that. I'll come up with something.
Many people that want to fix something go to a doctor, right? I mean, the doctor that you need is Dr. Frank Collige. Because he does have a doctorate degree.
Yes. So, Doctor of Business Administration.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
So he failed to mention that part with his all the other background accolades that he had.
those guys like, I served in the military. You're like, what would you do? Well, did tours, and you're like, what?
Twice.
Wait. They went back and flew balloons or dirigibles or something. A dirigible, I haven't seen it in 500 years.
I almost when I'm like, how many times did you get shot at in that thing?
A giant balloon.
Oh,
it's crazy.
Yeah, especially overseas.
It's gutsy stuff.
Yeah, and so I don't know why I make myself laugh. You stop laughing. But dude, so from your perspective, Frank, I mean, I'm really kind of encouraging everybody to vote, early vote, get out there. That's where the important race is. But if you were to say like the main thing that people need to hear and understand, what would that be?
Nobody in Tallahassee is willing to challenge insurance carriers. No one. And there is a way to make our insurance rates cheaper, but none of them want to do it. And so I'm the only one who currently, I stand up and I fight insurance companies now. And when I get elected as CFO, that ain't going to change. I have to actually give up my company to become CFO because I can't regulate myself. So I'm the only one taking a huge sacrifice just by running.
So what you're saying is the government's not going to pass a law that allows you to keep your job and be CFO like they did for the governor. That's what you're saying is.
Yes, because it's a conflict of interest.
Wait. Is that the problem?
Yeah, it's a conflict of interest, and I know something that politicians have no concept of, but I do. And so it's one of those things where I have to give it up. And so, again, my company's in 8 states. We handle over 1,000 claims a year. I make a very good living off of it, and I have to walk away from that. And it's because I want to help Floridians. There's a way to do it. And for instance, like when they want to raise their rates, insurance companies have every right to raise their rates, right? Because they're a private entity. Well, at the same time, they have to get approved by the state. Why doesn't the state just say, okay, fine, we'll let you raise your rates. However, you have to sit for a forensic audit conducted by DFS, because you need to justify your rates. For instance, you got Viceroy, who's a new insurance carrier, and you got Monarch Insurance, is an insurance company that we are familiar with. It's owned by the same conglomerate. So if Monarch says, hey, we're losing money, what about Viceroy? And vice versa.
What about FedNet?
Yeah, what about FedNet? Exactly. So, and then we also need better transparency, because, you have insurance companies that, you have Patriot Insurance, which is a new insurance company to Florida, but 5 years ago they were Anchor Insurance. They did a runoff, left the state of Florida, changed their name, came back 5 years later, and got gifted with thousands of policies from Citizens Depopulation Program. We should have a transparency. We should know about this. We should see their background, because this is a company that we already know will pack up and leave Florida when things start getting rough. Why are we giving them policies?
Yeah, and why am I hearing more and more times that these policies are coming out with arbitration clauses and such? And now Citizens was allowed to do that. How? I don't know, but they got it through in like thick pages of documents and with one line stating that because they're sovereign immunity owned by the state of Florida, I don't know, I might be saying it wrong. But
it comes down to the law that was passed that Blazin Golia himself, when he was state senator, voted for it, mandatory arbitration. Well, if you prevent me from going to court, that's a violation of my constitutional rights. I don't know how this law was allowed to be passed. I don't know how anyone hasn't been able to get it overturned in court yet, which I think there's a few that's working its way through. Problem is when it gets so far, Citizens agrees with a settlement, and the
case goes away.
And it goes away, because it's better to pay large amount on this one instead of having all these claims back to going to court. So we need to actually challenge that under constitutionality, because it's unconstitutional.
It is.
But nobody wants to do that. No one in Tallahassee is going to want to do it, because they're bought and paid for by insurance carriers. I'm not.
Yeah, and that's what we need. Again, I mean, we need somebody that's not bought and paid for with their interest at heart and at mind, because that's what we see. What happens is that we get all of the, I want to say, just the laws that help consumers get back to pre-loss condition get eroded away, while we still continue to see profits skyrocket for the insurance companies and no end in sight, meaning that no premium reduction exists. And that formula just cannot keep going on. What happens is that these bad policies are going to get into the marketplace, and then once they're saturated in the marketplace, not offering any type of all these caps, 5,000, 10,000, 10,000, all of these things are then going to cap these people into only having $25,000 worth of coverage, and then finally the rates will go down, but you don't have any real coverage. So that's a problem that we need to solve and that we need to get ahead of, and the people really need to be informed about that and have a voice. And the way they do that is the vote. They need to put their put their vote behind Frankfurt. All right, a really quick commercial break just happened there, and we'll keep on going here. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. You can tell live radio going on right here. We'll clean that up in post, as they say. But man, just some great stuff and some passionate stuff going on here, because it's like we've been told a lie by our government. Right? I mean, they show up and they say, we're here to help. Like Hans said, when that happens, run. Right? When we used to have, my parents used to have milk delivered to their door, it's like that was a little bit better of a time to where you would believe them. Somebody knocked on your door, I'm with the government, I'm here to help. Things have changed, and now you hear that and something's up, it's suspicious, run. And this is what we're seeing, is this our government saying that don't have these guys come out. We even had the current CFO, when he was Jimmy Petronas was in that seat, went on live television and was saying that these people that show up after storms, which talking about public adjusters, are showing up like they're locusts. buzzing around to try to just feed off of these innocent people and, trying to make it all this sob story. Meanwhile, they were sending out people with blue tarps, nailing through like 4 to 6 inches, ruining people's roofs with a temporary tarp, and again, they showed up, I'm with the government, I'm here to help.
And remember, Petronas said too, and if you see anything, call us, we're here to help you. And I was just like, Can you imagine calling this?
Well, it's just a poor representation.
Also,
man.
like Jimmy Petronas, he was talking about how public adjusters are locusts, right? But it was okay for him to use a public adjuster on his own claim.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely was. And one of our roofers, Mark Massey, I introduced him to Jimmy Petronas at that time. I was actually friendly with him before he just turned into a goober and bought and paid for and went out. I mean, you deserve to be called a douchebag if you get bought and paid for, and I'll say it, and I'll continue to say it on live radio, because it was. I mean, if you're bought and paid for like that, and it did such a 180 on that, and only to better him, to make that step up all off the backs of consumers who voted for him, and the people that he screwed along the way in order to get there is just, in my head, it's just, I'm just ashamed to have known him and to try to support him in that time, because he really thought, okay, we have somebody that's going to be fair, and that was the exact opposite. He basically turned his nose on me and our association, after he started getting into his seat, after he started to get turned. And collaboration with the Office of Insurance Regulation, which allowing these premiums to go up, skyrocket. There were companies that never asked for an increase who got an increase.
Yes.
Right? There were companies that asked for a 10% increase, got 50, 60, 100% increase. And it's crazy because you're supposed to, by law, if it's over 15%, have a public hearing on that increase. How many public hearings were they?
Well, you also have a law that says that...
I'll answer at 0.
Exactly. You also have a law that says that a policy can't be read at a lower rate than 45 on a Rorsch report, but yet every policy is. So there's a lot of laws that OIR is not enforcing, and it's real simple. The CFO, all they have to do is just go in there and enforce the law. One thing that doesn't seem to ever happen.
Right. Yeah, the law does exist. It is there.
The law does exist.
There.
Exactly. Well, the CFO, I get asked this a lot. What change can you do from day one? Well, day one, just enforce the law. When you got a claim going on, one of the biggest delay tactics is the insurance company doesn't like to send out the policy. Well, the law says you have 30 days to provide a certified copy of the policy upon request. Day 31, you don't provide one, I'm not going to go after State Farm itself. I'll go after the desk adjuster. They hold the license. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hold them accountable. They're the one who did it, not the CEO. The CEO didn't do it. The desk adjuster did. Start going, work your way from the lowest on the way up. Because what's going to happen is you're going to eventually find that evidence that you need, like the evidence in Colorado that they're going after State Farm for RICO charges. If they're doing it in one state, they're doing it in 49 other states. I guarantee it, because I see it all the time. You have claims that get denied day in, day out, and they're saying, "Oh, it's wear and tear." The hurricane literally went over this guy's house 2 days ago. The shingles were here, now they're gone. Oh, it's wear and tear. Mm-hmm. You're joking, right?
With that straight face, and they're like, "No."
Oh yeah.
It was the storm before that did it.
Right, so storm just outside this policy period.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We had that customer for 30 years, but it happened before we brought them on.
Right. There was that lapse, and that day that lapsed, that's when it happened. Yeah. And so we know that, right? I mean, they are not on your side. They're not a good neighbor, and we see that over and over again. They're for profit, and you'll see this in the paper. And I'll tell you to go look it up yourself. See what the average insurance company CEO makes. Right now you look at the top 5, the top 10. They're all making more than $26 million a year.
Well,
that's $500,000 a week, guys.
Look at Slide Insurance. No history in working insurance whatsoever. They open up in Florida. They get gifted thousands of policies from citizens.
How does he screw up Enron over in Texas and then move over in Florida and get this gift of luck?
I don't know. Start Heritage.
Oh yeah, right. and then the CEO and the COO are married. Combined, they combined with their salary and benefits, they get $50 million a year.
$50 million a year.
And then they recently went public because of all the policies they got from citizens. They went public. He sold the shares and made $120 million. This is all BS. This is all on the back of good hardworking Floridians.
We need to have that guy on the show, man. We need to see
yeah.
what scratch off ticket, what lucky do you have in your pocket?
Talisman does he carry in his
do you
pocket?
believe in rabbit's foot? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because it was not a good day for Enron, if you remember all that shenanigans. Whether he was an attorney or like an accountant person within that, but that foobar happens. He comes over to Florida and just somehow trips and falls into this gift of heritage. Owns it for 8 years, makes $80 million, shoots out, starts then slide. Gets gifted 91,000 policies from UPC. That UPC goes out of business. Gives 91,000 policies. All the claims go to FIGA, the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association, who we all pay for.
Yeah, paid by
pay the
taxpayers.
claims. All the good stuff and prepaid for the whole year of policies of 91,000 policies, like $300 some odd million gets gifted over to this Bruce Lucas guy, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, at this point, I'm just jealous.
Oh yeah, and the carriers don't have to. There's no like auctioning off. There's no bidding. There's nothing along those lines. You come to Florida, all of a sudden they just, here you go. Here's some policies. Thank you for coming to Florida. You know, I alluded to Patriot Insurance earlier. Right, same thing. They were Anchor. They waited 5 years, came here, and then all of a sudden they got a bunch of policies, all because they come to Florida. Well, I'm sorry, but you should have a good background in insurance, and you come to Florida, then maybe we can talk.
Well, I mean, look at Citizens. They had 1.4 million policies a year ago. Unless something changed, they were down to like 350,000 not that long ago.
Yeah,
they
that's a lot
essentially
of policies
gifted
to
out
offload.
1 million policies, which is a gift.
Yes.
They're, like you said, established policies, premiums paid, claims go to FIGA to pay by the taxpayers, and they get given these gifts for which I'm sure they are very grateful.
But what's gonna happen? Like this past year, luckily Florida didn't have any storms, but we had all these new carriers come to Florida. What's gonna happen when we got back-to-back storms? The same carriers that packed up and left years ago, they're gonna pack up and leave again, and they're gonna leave us all holding our claims. Like, what the heck are we going to do with these?
And
the state of Florida is going to have to pick it up and pay for it. And it's just going to be wash, rinse, and repeat because they're going to wait 5 years, come back. It's a money scheme, and unfortunately, we are all paying for it.
Well, and you mentioned transparency in Tallahassee, and I think one thing that needs to continue to exist, and it wouldn't happen if this Blaze and Golia stays there. It's just the same that would continue in this regime that we're seeing, which is inflated pricing, premiums from these insurance companies, and lower protections for the consumer. And I think that's something that we need to ensure that not only that we're telling the consumers, but we do need to get ahead of this. I mean, next thing you know, every policy is going to have this administrative hearing ability, or that we don't have our day. We won't have our day to access the court system because these policies are going to come out with arbitration or with these administrative hearings, as we've seen in Citizens policies, and only Citizens can invoke this DOA, this Department of Administrative Hearings. And Frank, you were going to talk about this.
Oh, yes. So whenever they invoke mandatory arbitration, which is DOA, Citizens picks the arbitrator, pays the arbitrator. They decide what evidence is allowed to be brought in. And then when you go there, 99% of this, you can look it up, 99% of the people who go there, they lose. And what happens when you lose? Citizens sends you the bill for their legal fees.
Isn't that crazy?
So basically, Citizens is encouraged to deny claims because what are you going to do about it? You can't do anything.
And Citizens is paying them to put this on, and they're not even judges that understand. You've got this judge that's just sitting over there that don't have a background in property damage.
Well, you got a judge that is bought and paid for by the insurance carrier. Literally, Citizens pays them and tells them what they got to do.
Yeah.
So how's that fair? How's that fair? It's not.
It's not.
It's basically screwing over Floridians, and it's just another way that they're doing it.
Yeah, because when you get in front of a jury, majority of the time, the jury sides for the plaintiff. I mean,
because
and they know that.
It's because denying a claim for, say, wear and tear, right? Well, if a storm came and they still want to deny for wear and tear, then wear and tear starts at the warehouse. So at what stage did the wear and tear make this roof uninsurable? And if it was uninsurable, why'd you continue collecting premiums?
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
No post loss underwriting now, right? You took the premium for it,
exactly,
and then now you're saying it's worn and torn. Then why did you give insurance on it? You know, and so that's the main question. And we see these policies now that coming out with saying now you don't have access to the court system. You have to do it now. Non-citizens policies are starting to enter the market that are saying that you have to go to arbitration, and then they're going to start to electing like this DOA type of situation.
Yes.
It's not going to be good for homeowners. And now while premiums are still very high, they're waiting, and I know this is happening, and hear this now, is that premiums are still high. All of these policies are going to saturate the market, and then slowly they're going to start to drop down, and people are going to be like, oh, yeah, cool, I'm happy now, but not knowing what the crap that's inside their policy.
The rates are going up, coverages are going down. I had someone out, they were on their vacation, they were on a cruise, and this was like 2 weeks ago. They were on a cruise. They got called that water was pouring out of their house, right? So they asked for my help. I said, okay, let me go out there and take a look. I scoped the house. It's over $150,000 in damages. Their policy, $20,000 water cap.
Oh.
And this is what we're seeing. Why? It's because OIR is rubber stamping whatever the insurance company wants. The CFO is allowing to happen. We are mandated to purchase insurance, but we don't have a say. I think that needs to stop. And when I am CFO, I'm going to advocate with the legislators to either one or two things happens. Either the insurance commissioner needs to become an elected position and be accountable to the electorate, or we need to establish a board that is balanced between people representing homeowners and representing carriers, and it's a public forum, and people can show up and argue with any kind of increase or include endorsements or whatever.
No, that's great, man. That's great. FrankForChange.com is where you go. Get all of the background information on Frank Collige. Make sure you show up on August 18th for in person, and you will have the opportunity, if you're a Republican, to vote ahead of time as well. So make sure you check it out. You make sure that you're registered. If you're a Republican, you'll be able to vote in the primary. So it's very important that you show up and give us a voice in Tallahassee. We want better rates. We want better coverages. And I think it can exist. We just have to have the right people in the right places. Hans, you want to finish this off here?
There's a new sheriff in town. His name's Frank Collige.
That was pretty good. I like that. All right, check us out for more of our shows on our website, contractortalkpodcast.com. We'll talk to you guys next week. See you.